Hello, fellow Lolsters, followers, listeners, and viewers of LOL. Today we have Kathryn P Carter with us too. Welcome, Kathryn. Um, Over to
Yeah.
Danya for a proper intro.
Kathryn is an education consultant, a children's book author, and a virtual tutor. One of the many things that she does is help children become rock stars. You can learn more about her on her website, apcarterwrites.com. She lives in North Carolina, and we are very, very happy to have you with us here today, Kathryn. And we have been planning this episode for the past almost 1.5 months, and we finally got the time to talk to you. Thank you for being here
Yes,
with us.
yes. And it's so nice to see her so bright and with her all her bright background and all. It was so interesting to know someone, who helps kids become rock stars. That fascinated me when I read your short profile. How do you think creativity, reading, and writing have helped you in that, in that assistance? You know.
So we all agree that reading is the gateway to everything. If you can't read with understanding, not just read to call the words, you have a hard time in life. So you just do. So I learned very early that it's real important to help children learn to enjoy reading, to understand why it's important to read, and to even learn to create writings for other people to read. So that's that reading rock star, that I can do this, I am good at it, and I can help others. That's that reading rock star is so important.
So you said you have retired and you're now in North Carolina for the past 1.5 years. So how are you continuing your long career of education as an educationist now? What are you doing there in North Carolina now?
So one thing, I am still writing my children's books. I'm the author of the Lizzie B. Hayes series, which is for readers ages 8 to 12. So I'm going around and sharing my books with children. That's my heart. Reading to children and watching their eyes light up it's the one thing, one of the major things that I miss about my career. Is that constant contact and communication with children. But I also tutor. So I help children who, whether they are having a challenge with reading and they need support, or if they need enrichment, because every child is not struggling. And so some children just need a boost. They need to see other ways to be creative, to soar above I guess, mediocrity. They need a boost to do that. And I also help parents to understand the importance of their role at home. So I do a workshop series called 10 Steps to Reading Success.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yes, and it helps parents think about what they can do at home. We know parents are the first teachers. So what they do at home is important.
Tell us more about the book that you mentioned just now for the children. What is it about? How you began on the book? How long you took to write this book?
Okay, so this book is such a labor of love. I have 2 adult sons, and when they were young, there were very few books that had children that looked like them doing positive everyday things. So I decided over 20 years ago that there's no book out there, I have to write it. A famous author once said that. And so I wrote Summertime with Lizzie B. Hayes, and initially it wasn't going to be a series. I was just going to do this one book, have it for my sons, and be done. But I wanted just children to understand Well, let me just tell you what it's about. This is a historical fiction book
Oh.
about growing up in Newark, New Jersey during the 1960s. So it helps children to see that kids in the past, they played and had family issues and loved school or either hated school, just like they did. So I wanted them to make a connection. But I also wanted to teach them about this significant time period. You can see the cityscape here. That's the Newark city skyline.
Yes.
And there were lots of things going on in the 60s in Newark, around our country, actually. So I want to teach children what that time period was like. And I found that kids wanted to know more. They wanted to see what Lizzie was going to do next. They wanted to just grow with her and her cousins. She has two cousins, Shushu and Mookie. So I said, okay, I'll make it a series. I'll write another book. So in this first book, she's 8 years old. She lives with her extended family. And she's just a funny, quirky little girl enjoying her best life during a significant time period. That was the summer of the 1967 unrest in Newark, New Jersey.
Okay. In your next book, did she grow up or is she still
in the next book is coming out. I'm re-releasing it in June.
Okay.
It is Lizzie B. Hayes and the Great Camp Caper. Now she's off to Girl Scout camp for 2 whole weeks. And she has to learn, when you're 10, you're starting to grow, your body is starting to develop, but not quite yet. And she has to take care of herself. And she's in the cabin with a bully. And she and the bully get lost on an overnight hike. And she finds out, what happened to make this girl become a bully. So it helped children to explore and understand that aspect of bullying, because a lot of times people just say, bullies, just stay away from them. But there's a reason why some children become bullies. So I talk about that. And I have another third book in the series, Lizzie B. Hayes and the 7th Grade Secret. Now she's 12 years old. She's off to junior high school. And all of the things that 12-year-olds go through, now your body is really developing. You're starting to get interested in boys. You're in a new school. And 1970 was the year that the first African-American mayor was elected in Newark, New Jersey, Kenneth A. Gibson. So that historical aspect is going on in the background while Lizzie is off to junior high school, wanting to be a basketball star. She's an excellent student. And so that's where I am with the series right now. I didn't answer your question. I kind of went off.
No, that's okay.
Talking about Lizzie.
No, not at all.
Yeah. I'm interested in knowing about in your bio, like in your website, when we read about your story, it says you have a master's in education in reading education, right? Can you tell us what reading education actually is? Because I'm sure, like the Asians, we don't have a separate stream in that name. So if you could tell us what that means and what it entails, what are the things that you learn in that?
Okay. So in undergraduate school, for 4 years, I studied education, elementary education. Well, at the time, they called it intermediate education. But so I learned foundational things of education, writing curriculum, and all of the things that go into that, how to set up a classroom and everything. Well, if you've ever been a teacher, all of those classes are great, but they don't teach you the real deal. Once you get in the classroom, that's when you get the real deal. So I was always interested in reading and helping children. And so I decided to get my master's in specifically reading, where you learn how to help children understand the letter sounds, understand the phonemes, understand word endings and word, prefixes and suffixes, vocabulary development. And most of all, the king of it all, or the queen of it all, comprehension. A lot of children I shouldn't say a lot. I don't want to make a general broad statement, but many children and their parents believe that just because you can open a book, I'm looking for a book. Well, okay, here's one. Just because you can open a book and start calling the words that you're reading, well, you're not. You're just pronouncing the words. Many children go through that process and they have no idea of what they read. They don't comprehend. So reading foundation that I learned in my master's program was to help children understand all the basics of reading and how to get to comprehend, how to understand what they read, how to use pictures to help you with the understanding, how to use context clues to help you understand, and to read widely. We have a big job to do to help our children to become well-read and to read a lot.
Do you think that
nothing with
you in, yes,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to ask, like, does having a degree in reading education give you like a fillip in writing a children's book? Do you think that has helped you in your writing style or the way you bring like a thought into an entire fiction story? Has it helped you in developing your own writing career?
Well, it has in the way that well, and then a part of this is just being around children. I want to write books that kids will like. So understanding that I have to put forth books that make sense to kids, that they will want to read. So the training did help me in that respect. But I guess more so it was just being in the classroom so many years is what helped me. But that degree helped me to understand what is the foundation of reading and how to help children to use that foundation, to acquire a foundation and to soar, to be reading rock stars.
Okay.
I'm sure, as you were a teacher and because you have a degree in reading education, I'm sure you have read a lot of books to the kids, right? Some other authors, you've read like a lot of books that have, shaped them up of people, shaped their character and all that. Do you have like a particular author or like a particular line that you loved so much that you had to hold on to it while you were writing the book, your book?
So what I did when I was writing, because I decided to write for children ages 8 and up to help them. I mean, they still like picture books, but they need good chapter books as well. And I held on to books by authors like Rita Williams Garcia, who wrote One Crazy Summer, and that whole Gaither Sisters series. I held on to books by Denise Lewis Patrick, who they're just great middle grade writers who write for kids ages 8 and up. Now, Denise, she does have a few picture books, I should say, but I wanted to immerse myself in books by authors who really have a hold on writing for children that age. It's really an art to be able, because you have to be realistic. You have to still address them, that wonder that they have to be great and to imagine and to think that they can do anything. So you have to be able to touch their heart and their mind. And so I would study, and there was a time where I was reading so many books, not just those two authors, but so many authors who write chapter books. And then it was like, okay, that's enough. Get going with your work, because you have to be careful that you don't, well, for me, I had to be careful not to be so influenced by them that you end up mimicking them. I had to maintain my voice. Lizzie has a distinct voice, and characters in the book They're distinct.
I wanted to ask you, why is it that your second book, second in the series, is coming so long after 2 decades? Am I right in saying that?
So this book, I had the thought to write the book, but
Okay.
I wrote it out in longhand in a composition book. And then life happened. I had to get my sons through school. I was a wife. I was a classroom teacher. Then I was in central office in the Board of Education. And I just couldn't get it done. I didn't actually release the first book until 2014.
Oh.
That's when it was released.
Oh, the book,
board.
your boys read the handwritten book, is it?
Yes.
Without any pictures.
Yes.
And so
yes.
who has done that?
There are a few pictures. There are a few pictures in the book like this. I love this picture. This is one of the first pictures. She is, it starts out, have you ever tasted cod liver oil? It's a slimy fish smelling medicine that grown-ups tell you will knock the cold right out of you. Well, Lizzie has a cold at the beginning of the book, and this is her grandmother giving her cod liver oil. So I have one picture in each, well, in almost every chapter. Yes. And so it took me a while. It took a while. Life just happened. I am so amazed and I admire people who are able to keep writing and have their full-time jobs and a full household of responsibilities. That's great for some people. For me, it was not as easy. So that's what took me so long.
So was it self-published or traditionally published?
This book is self-published. I take pride in this book. It's very well done, very well edited and formatted, and you can see the cover. And these are some of the other pictures. This is a picture of Lizzie's cousin Mookie and Shushu. They're hiding under the kitchen table. So I chose self-publishing for this particular series.
Yes. So who did the illustrations?
David James is a wonderful young man. I met him. It took a while to get a really good illustrator. It took a while. But once I did, I'm sticking with him because he knows Lizzie. He knows Lizzie. And when I finally settled with him, I gave him the manuscript and told him I wanted one picture per chapter. And when he came back with the drafts of the pictures, I was like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I meant. He said, well, that's the way you wrote it. And so I was able to convey that in pictures. So David James is my illustrator.
Oh, nice. That's very nice. We can't hear you, Danya.
Can't hear you.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. I was just asking, did you have to tell him which part of the chapter you wanted as a picture, or did he come up with that himself?
He came up with that himself.
Oh, that's interesting.
He came up with that himself. I said, I want one picture per chapter.
That's all.
I did give him instruction about the first picture where she's taking the cod liver oil. Okay. But that's a medicine that we take for cold. Well, back in the day when I was a child, you took it for everything, anything that ailed you.
Yeah. That means he has read it very well. Yeah.
I sent you a copy of it, I believe. Did I send you the I didn't send you did you ask me to?
I didn't. Did you ask Danya? I would ask her the book.
We just mentioned that we usually meet, but because your books aren't available in India, usually what I do is we purchase the book off of Amazon from our own home country, but I don't think yours is available on Amazon India.
Oh my goodness. So you haven't read, Liz? Oh, I will have to make that happen.
We can read that movie.
Yes.
That's okay. So I just wanted to ask you because see, when you write historical fiction for kids, you will have to know which part of history is going to reveal and which is too heavy for that age, right? So how did you come up with that strategy? Like, how did you think, let me bring this part of history, but not this?
So this part of history is very heavy. And I decided to write it in a way to help children understand. It's like an entry point into that time period. And I've had many parents to say to me, oh my goodness, this is so great because now I can help my child understand what happened that summer. And it's not just what happened in Newark. This same thing was happening in Los Angeles, in Detroit. So it was the height of the civil rights era. And there was and then to help them to see how some things go around, because some of the things that happen in the book are going on right now in our country. And children need to be aware of that, but it doesn't need to be just right in their face, all of the ugly truth. But it's a way to just write it so that they can digest it. So I did a lot of research, even though I lived during that time period. I did a lot of research. I watched videos that are on YouTube. I read old newspaper reports, and then relied on friends that I knew that lived during that time period. So I did a lot of oral interviews and things to see how they felt, because they were children at that time.
Yeah.
How different is it, do you think, to write for a middle grader than to write for a kid who is younger than 18 years old? How, like, is it too different, or is it like there are some places where these two ways of writing to, merge or like come together?
Yes. So picture books are wonderful, and they tell a story. And in the early books, you're writing to help children understand how words work together, how the sounds. Sometimes they write books that have the same similar sounds, cat, bat, at, to help them understand that. So when you're going on to writing for older children, it's elevating them, but putting in stories that they can relate to, stories that they can imagine, stories that also address standards, because here in the States, like around the country, there are standards that children should know how to do this by third grade. They need to know how to know this by fourth grade. So keeping all of that in mind. And so it is different. It's a delicate balance. I hope I'm answering your question.
Yes,
you
of
are.
course.
Oh, good.
Of course.
Good.
Yeah. So
So,
what?
please go.
Yeah. What are you actually writing now? Is it the second book, or is it ready and you're working on the
It's so
third?
funny. I am writing 3 different books right now. I'm finishing. The second book is actually finished. The editor has finished, and I'm meeting with my printer this week. The third book I'm actually writing, Lizzie Behaves in the 7th Grade Secret.
Okay.
So now I'm starting to write a little bit for older children, because when you're in middle school, you could be 12, 13, 14. So that's another, I'm stretching myself to learn how to write for, it's called YA, young adults. So it's like bridging a gap, trying to bridge a gap. That's what I'm doing. No, I'm not trying. I don't like that word trying. I am attempting to write for older children. So it's a lot of studying and that I have to do to be able to write books for them.
You're You're growing with Lizzie?
Growing with Lizzie, yes, I am. I'm also writing a companion book to go with my parent workshop, 10 Steps to Reading Success. And it is going to be full of things that parents can do. It's an extension of the workshop. It gives them the research behind each step and their practices actually that they can adopt. For instance, read with your child every day. That's not rocket science. But some people have an issue with managing their time, and they have lots of other obligations. But it's not always I have to sit down and read for an hour. It could be I read for 10 minutes in the morning. I squeeze in 15 minutes right before bedtime. So things like that to help parents understand and to know the research behind why that's so important. Why is it important? It's not just me telling you to adopt that practice. It's showing you the research behind it. You are helping your child gain a skill, plus you're bonding with your child also. So
do you rewrite your text, and at what stage do you take it to the editor? What does the editor do?
So that's a wonderful question. In the beginning, back to over 20 years ago, when I was working on this, I would write and rewrite and rewrite and write and write. And I met an author once who was famous. She said that's enough. You need to send it to your to your editor. That's enough. So my editor happens to be really good at helping with development. She's also an excellent with your grammar, your periods, you know, all of that, all of those mechanics, and also reading for the flow. Where, okay, in the beginning, you're talking about this, but then in the middle of the book, you're contradicting what you said in the beginning, helping me to understand all of that. So to answer your question, when do I send it to the editor? When I have done it, when I have written the best book that I possibly can, when it's to the best of my ability. So and I've sent it to a few of my beta readers. I have some children. Well, now those girls are older. So, but I'm going to need to find some new children.
Because they have grown.
They're grown. They're grown. And then I'll send it to the editor and get ready for the, what's she going to say?
So how do you take all of the suggestions she comes up with, the editor? Or do you have arguments? Do you amicably settle in the end? What do you do? How do you work?
We work through it. I have a very good relationship with her. She is dubbed the queen of editing. Naomi Dunstan White. She's excellent. She will give me comments and suggestions, ask me what I think, because her goal is to help the book maintain my voice, not become something else. So I have to think about what she said and I ponder it. Sometimes we agree, other times we go back and forth, but the grammar and mechanics that definitely has to be followed.
So the editor you're referring to, she only edits children's books, or I'm sure she's a specialist in that, or does she also edit adults' books?
She edits adult books as well.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So I just was curious to know, while you're going through the book, right? I mean, because when it's children's books and there are pictures, the placement of the words, the arrangement of the paragraph, that also matters. How it looks also matters. So how do you know where to end the chapter or where to end, that particular scene because it has to fit into that page with the picture in it and everything. So have you had problems with it, or have you had to go through it a few times, or has it been natural for you?
In the layout, she means. The layout.
Yes. So fortunately, I don't do the actual layout. I leave that to the printer. But with my editor, I determine where pictures should be placed. Because, for instance, not in this book so much, but in the one that's coming out in June, she suggested that some of the pictures be moved within the chapter because it didn't fit with the text of what it was talking about at the time. So but the formatting, I don't do that. So this is a great picture. Lizzie is having dinner with her relatives down south in South Philadelphia. And just wanted to show a fun picture, family sharing a meal. I mean, that's universal.
Yes, of course. So, for example, you said Lizzie is given castor oil. Is it castor? What was it?
Castor oil.
Oh, yes. That picture, does it come right where that paragraph comes? Is it there, or is it after that?
So on the page, it says the book starts with the text. Have you ever tasted cod liver oil? And then it goes on to talk about what's going on in the bathroom. She and her grandmommy is trying to give it to her. And the first time she gave it to her, Lizzie spits it out on the bathroom mirror. Grandmommy frowns at the messy mirror and pours her another spoonful. So that's all described here on this page. And you can see the look on her face is disgust.
Oh my goodness. Yes. So interesting.
I have one more question, but I think it's going to take a little longer time. Should we log off and then log in back again before the? Yeah.
Oh.
So, Kathryn, you have written a lot of blogs too. So, how did you start? Was it that you started blogging first, and the audience were interested in your book immediately because they have read you a lot, or do you think you started the book and then you just thought maybe I will start blogging too? Which started first, and which helped the other grow?
So the blogging grew out of the 10 Steps to Reading Success Parent Workshop. So I rely on my education experience and background to do those blog posts, because each post, when I first started, each post was about a different step. And I just talked about it and wrote about it. And I've been thinking of, and I have started going back and refreshing those posts and bringing them back forth. And then from that, I started going Instagram Live and interviewing authors. It was called the Lit Life series.
Oh,
I was doing that last year, and I tied that in with authors, literacy, and the new book when this book was about to be re-released last summer. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, you mean re-released? You mean a second edition of the same?
Second edition.
Yes, this is a second edition of the first one that was first came out in 2014. And I decided to re-release it because there were some not significant, but there were some issues with the first book that I wanted to correct. And I wanted to go a little deeper with children. Okay. So that's when I started working with Miss Naomi.
What were the corrections that needed corrections? Were they content based, or is it language or layout and editing based, or what kind of?
It wasn't layout, because the book was laid out perfectly.
Okay.
I had that done very well, but there were a few inconsistencies in the book, And there was some things that I wanted to share more deeply with children.
Okay.
So
That's
why I hired Ms. Naomi.
What was the most challenging part of getting that book self-published for you?
Learning the self-publishing industry. Learning that being an author is not all about creativity. It is a book business. And learning to collaborate with people, learning to get the right information, researching, being careful about joining different workshops, because everybody's got a platform. Everybody wants you to pay their exorbitant fee to go through their process, learning who's good, who's not good. And some of it was trial and error in the very beginning, but it was learning that it's a book business and understanding that even though it's a lot to learn, if you have the desire to get a book out, you can learn it. I find a lot of friends, I'm talking with lots of different friends who, I have a book in me. There's some things I want to say to help people. And I assure them, you can do it. You can do it. I did it, and I know you can do it. It's work, it's hard work, but you can do it.
So how were the reviews, like the parents reading to the children, or the children themselves reading? And did you take your book to the library orders, and how did you do? Can you let us know?
So with libraries, when I was in New Jersey, and I'm starting to do that here in North Carolina now that things are opening up, I would take a copy of my book to the children's library, meet the children's librarian, talk about the book, I would offer to do a workshop with children about the book. And that was my entryway into getting them to order the book for their children, to get it into the library, onto the shelves. But it was a lot of face-to-face time that I had to do with librarians, which was a fun thing to do, because they are the gatekeepers, and then their bosses are the gatekeepers of the money to actually purchase the book, to get your book on the shelf. And there was a second part of your question, reviews. Oh my goodness, reviews are so very important. I don't always do as good a job as I would like to do with getting reviews, because people, when they see that someone else likes the book, then that encourages someone else to read the book. So requesting that people do reviews is a great way to start getting reviews. Some people pay for reviews. They get Kirkus review. Kirkus does review independent books, independently published books. So you have to decide what your budget is. People have to do that and say, am I going to pay for reviews? You can get reviews on Amazon, but the person has to actually purchase the book on Amazon's platform. But as you may know, indie authors, you don't want any middleman. So I sell my books on my website as well, even though they are on Amazon. And you know what? I'm also looking through the notes that you sent me. You did request a copy of the book.
Oh, okay.
And you said, send us a copy. And I had it on my to-do list to send you the PDF. And I don't know what, but I will send it to you. So, because
sure. So when the reviews come, are the parents reading the reviews, or children also read the reviews? Have you
Well, that's something I'm not sure of. I'm not sure if
is it because the parents are going to buy the book, they are going to read the
parents
reviews,
and the teachers and the librarians and
yes,
the parents in elementary school, the parents who are homeschooling, they are the purchasers.
True.
And that's when I'm on using my social media platforms.
Okay.
I make it to address parents' needs. So, I see some things in the chat. I'm busy looking at you in the camera. I didn't really look in the chat. Oh,
no, that's not for you. That's for like the next questions, that because we have a second
gotcha.
segment.
Okay.
That's just questions for the next segment, so that we both can keep track of it.
Okay.
So we are going to last segment of the session. It's called WOW, W questions.
World of W.
World of W. So it's almost wrapping up, but whoever, they are not interested in going through the whole thing, they can just scroll down to only listen to that. So when is your new book coming? Next book coming? I mean, you said June, right?
June is my ultimate date.
Okay.
But when I meet with the printer this week, that will tell for sure.
Of course.
You plan on writing other genres? Like you have aspirations to branch out of children's fiction?
So the book for the parent workshop is a nonfiction book. So that I'm also toying around with writing a memoir as well.
So how has social media helped you in increasing the sales of the book?
Social media, for me, social media has been my way to engage with people, to take that engagement, hopefully offline, to get people to, for instance, subscribe to my newsletter, and where I have constant contact with them about the things that I'm doing, that those things turn to sales. Just being on social media is not really a sales thing for me, and maybe for others, but I just, it's a lot of effort to get out really good quality posts, not to just throw stuff up there just to have it up there.
So how many edits do you usually go through before you finalize on the book, like until you've decided that this is your last draft? What's your average number of edits?
It depends. This one, there were several rounds. There were maybe 4 or 5 rounds. Maybe 4 or 5. And then with the second book, there have been a few more rounds of edits. But what happens is it's not an edit of the entire thing. It's, at first we meet to just review and talk about everything. Then she reads the entire book. Then she'll come back with certain things, and we just go, chapter by chapter. And then, so it depends. It also depends on how well that first draft is that I send to her.
Of course. Yeah. So where can our audience reach you? How can we?
So my website is KP Carter Writes, WRITES.com.
Your Insta handle, please.
My Instagram is the Literacy Whisperer.
Oh, Literacy Whisperer.
Literacy Whisperer. And that's also on TikTok. I have a young person who's finally pushed me over to that. She pulled me in or onto that platform.
I'm not yet in TikTok. I don't know about Danya. Danya, are you in TikTok? Oh.
Yeah. And then on Facebook, I'm also KP Carter, the Literacy Whisperer.
Literacy Whisperer.
Literacy. I'll type it in the chat how it's.
Sure.
So I think it's time for us to wrap up the session. If you have any parting words for our audience who are aspiring children's book authors, and if you can share with us what you have felt about this entire session that you had with us.
First, I can't go any further without thanking Surabhi for introducing me to you. I met her through someone else at a library event. And so I'm grateful to her for that. And it's been a delight to speak with you, I was like, oh my goodness, 7 o'clock in the morning. Am I going to be bright and perky enough? I'm a morning person, but to be able to convey what's important. So I'm thankful to her. I'm thankful to you for this opportunity. And I just want to share with aspiring authors that you have a story and someone is waiting to read it. Your story is going to save someone's life. You're entertaining them. You're helping them to either laugh or maybe cry or just for information. You have a story, you need to write it and get the help that you need to make your book a quality product that people will appreciate. I hope that answers your question.
Yes,
Thank you.
Of course. Thank you. Thank you. It was nice talking to you. So,
you as well.
So we'll keep in touch.
Yes.
Okay, bye.